My daughter drove me to a nursing home and called it a doctor's appointment. That right there tells you everything you need to know about Karen Gaines Pruitt. The planning, the patience, the specific kind of cruelty that smiles while it operates. 68 years old, sharp as the day I retired from 31 years of electrical work in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I drive myself to the hardware store on Perkins Road every Saturday morning. I manage my own bills, my own medication, my own everything. I mow my own lawn in the garden district, which in a Louisiana summer is either an act of discipline or an act of stubbornness. And I have never once stopped to determine which. My doctor, a straight-talking internist named Dr. Phil Moran, who has been my physician for 14 years, told me at my last physical that my blood work looked like a man 15 years younger. I thanked him and asked about my cholesterol. He said it was fine. I said good. We shook hands. That was February 6th. On Monday, March 10th, my daughter Karen drove me to what she described as a follow-up cardiology appointment on Jefferson Highway. It was not a cardiology appointment. It was Sunrise Gardens Memory Care, a facility with beige walls, soft lighting, and a welcome packet with my name already printed on it in a font that was specifically designed to feel gentle. Someone had been planning this long enough to order custom paperwork. Karen handed me a bag with 3 days of clothes, told the intake coordinator that her father had been showing signs of confusion, and left before I finished reading the cover page of the welcome packet. She didn't hug me goodbye. I noticed that. Here is what Karen did not know I knew. My neighbor Ray Coulter, 64 years old, retired postal worker, lived 2 houses down on Prytania Street for 19 years, had called me that same morning at 8:47 a.m., 14 minutes before Karen picked me up. "Jeff, there's a for sale sign in your front yard." I had looked out the window from my kitchen. No sign visible from the back. I'd told Ray I'd check when I got home. Then Karen pulled up and I forgot about it completely. I remembered it the moment I read Sunrise Gardens Memory Care on the welcome packet cover. I didn't say a word to the intake coordinator. I sat in that beige chair with the welcome packet in my lap, and I did the math. For sale sign. Monday morning appointment that wasn't an appointment. 3 days of clothes in a bag. My house was listed. She needed me gone. My house on Prytania Street, a 4-bedroom Craftsman I'd owned for 31 years, paid off in 2011, maintained with the particular obsession of a man who spent his career understanding exactly what goes wrong when you don't take care of the infrastructure, was worth $380,000. I knew this because a neighbor 2 blocks over had sold a comparable property the previous October for $374,000, and mine was in better condition. I knew this the way retired electricians in the Garden District know things, not from Zillow, from 30 years of watching houses and what they cost when they're not maintained. Karen knew it too. She'd mentioned the neighborhood appreciation at Thanksgiving, the way you mention something you've been thinking about for a while and testing to see who's paying attention. I was paying attention. I just didn't know yet what she was paying attention to. I had my phone. Karen had not taken my phone, which was either an oversight or a sign of overconfidence. And knowing Karen, I'm going with overconfidence. The intake coordinator, a pleasant, professionally warm woman named Lisa, who clearly had no idea she was processing a man who was about to make the most important call of his life, began explaining the 30-day evaluation period. I listened politely. I have spent 68 years being polite to people who are explaining things I didn't need explained. It is a useful skill. It buys time. "Mr. Matt, we'll need to go over your medications and daily routine." "Of course," I said. "Could you give me just a moment? I need to make a quick call." She smiled. "Of course. Take your time." I called Donna Sharp. Donna Sharp has been my elder law attorney for 6 years. I hired her in 2019 when I updated my estate documents after my wife Betty passed. Not because I was in crisis, but because I am the kind of man who hires a good attorney before he needs one. The same reason I check the smoke detectors every 6 months and keep a spare fuse box in the utility closet. Donna is 57, sharp-edged in the way of a woman who has spent 20 years watching families do terrible things to each other and has developed exactly 0 patience for it. She picked up on the second ring. "Donna, it's Jeffrey Matt. I'm sitting in the intake waiting room at Sunrise Gardens Memory Care on Jefferson Highway, and I did not consent to be here." A pause. Not surprise. Donna Sharp doesn't do surprise. The pause of a woman already running the calculation. Are you mentally competent? I'm insulted you asked. But yes. Good. Sign nothing. Touch nothing. Don't answer any questions about your health history until I tell you to. Does your daughter have a power of attorney? Healthcare POA. I signed it in 22 after my hip surgery. I was recovering and my son-in-law Glenn suggested it. Said it was just for the surgery period. Did it have a sunset clause? An expiration date? I thought about it. I don't remember one. Okay. I'm going to pull your file. Jeff, your neighbor called you this morning about a for sale sign. How did you? You mentioned it in 3 sentences. I'm fast. Is the sign on your property? That's what Ray said. Donna was quiet for 4 seconds. 4 very specific seconds. Jeff, I need you to call Ray right now and have him photograph that sign, the lockbox if there is one, and any activity at the property. Send those photos to my office number immediately. Donna, I'm filing 3 documents before noon. Don't go anywhere. Don't be confrontational. Just sit in that chair and let them think you're reading the welcome packet. I looked at the welcome packet. The font is very soothing. Jeff, I'm calling Ray. Ray Coulter answered on the first ring because Ray Coulter always answers on the first ring. 19 years of living 2 houses down means you answer your neighbor's calls the way you'd want yours answered. Ray, are you near the house? I'm on my porch. Jeff, where are you? There's a lockbox on your front door and a real estate sign. Bayou Properties Realty. Some agent named Phil Garrett. Jeff, is everything okay? No. Can you photograph everything you can see from the street and send it to this number? I gave him Donna's office number. Jeff, what happened? Karen drove me to a cardiology appointment. It wasn't a cardiology appointment. A pause. Then Ray, with the quiet, precise outrage of a man who has known me for 19 years. She put you somewhere. Sunrise Gardens on Jefferson. I'm taking pictures right now. Jeff, there's 2 men inside the house. I can see them through the front window. They've got boxes. The welcome packet in my lap suddenly felt very light. What kind of boxes? Moving boxes. I did not respond immediately. I sat in that beige chair in the intake waiting room of Sunrise Gardens Memory Care, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not panic, not rage. Something colder and more useful than either. She hadn't just listed the house. She was already moving my things. Ray, photograph everything. The men, the boxes, the sign, the lockbox, everything. Already doing it. Jeff. I hung up. Looked at the welcome packet. Looked at the intake coordinator's desk. Lisa was on a call of her own. Pleasant and professional. Doing her job. I didn't know yet that Donna was about to file 3 documents that would stop a real estate transaction in its tracks, void a power of attorney, and begin a process that would cost Karen not just the house sale, but her own living situation entirely. I didn't know yet that the men with the boxes were from a storage company Karen had hired to move my belongings into a unit on Airline Highway, so the house would show better, she would tell a judge later, with the specific audacity of a woman who had not yet understood what she was dealing with. I knew one thing. I was 68 years old, mentally sharp, legally competent, and sitting in a chair I had not chosen to sit in. That was about to change. Welcome back to Sweet Family Revenge. Grab your snacks, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to love it here. Lisa finished her call and looked at me with the practiced warmth of someone whose job involves delivering difficult information gently. Mr. Matt, whenever you're ready, we can begin the intake assessment. Lisa. I set the welcome packet on the chair beside me, carefully, face up. I appreciate your professionalism. You seem like someone who is very good at your job. Thank you, Mr. Matt. I want you to know that what I'm about to do is not a reflection on you or this facility. She blinked. I'm sorry. I'm a mentally competent adult who was brought here without my consent. My attorney is filing an emergency motion to revoke the power of attorney my daughter used to authorize this admission. I'm going to sit in this chair until that filing is confirmed, and then I'm going to walk out that door under my own power. A pause. I'd like a cup of coffee if you have it. Black, no sugar. Lisa stared at me for a long moment. Then she got me the coffee. Donna called back at 11:42 a.m. 3 filings. POA revocation, effective immediately. Emergency injunction on the Prytania Street property. Halts all sale activity, listing, access, everything. And an adult protective services complaint for elder financial exploitation. How long for the injunction? Judge signs it tomorrow morning at the latest. Tonight, if I can get the duty judge. Let her. Don't answer. Let everything go through me from this point. The men with the boxes. I've already contacted the storage company. Once the injunction is granted, any movement of your property is contempt of court. They'll stop. A pause. Jeff, are you all right? I looked around the waiting room. The soothing font. The beige walls, the gentle lighting designed to calm people who had lost their capacity for calm on their own. I'm fine, Donna. I've been in worse places. Name one. The crawl space under a commercial building on Magazine Street in 2003, August. No ventilation. She laughed. The specific laugh of a professional who doesn't laugh often. I'll call you when the judge signs. I sat in that chair until 4:17 p.m. Then I walked out. 6 hours and 2 minutes from arrival to departure. Karen had planned this for months. It lasted one working day. There is a specific satisfaction in watching a complicated, months-long plan collapse in the span of a Tuesday morning court filing. I did not feel joy about it. Karen is my daughter, and nothing about what she did stopped being painful just because I had an attorney. But satisfaction? Yes. The particular satisfaction of a man who spent 31 years in electrical work understanding that the most important thing in any system is not what happens when it runs correctly. It's what you built in for when it doesn't. I built Donna Sharp in, Tuesday, March 11th. 8 a.m. Donna's office on Government Street, 4th floor. The corner suite that smells like good coffee, and filed briefs and 20 years of cases Donna had won by being more prepared than the other side expected. I was there at 7:55 because I am never late, and I had nothing else to do, since I had spent Monday night in a hotel on St. Charles Avenue because I was not going back to Prytania Street until the injunction was in place, and the moving company had been formally notified that any further contact with my property constituted contempt. Ray had offered his guest room. I told him I'd take the hotel. Some things you need to handle in a space that's entirely your own, and Monday night was one of them. Donna was already at her desk when her assistant, a focused young man named Ben who moved with the efficiency of someone who understood that every minute Donna spent looking for something was a minute she should have been filing something, brought me back. She had 2 files open, a coffee that was already half empty, and the expression of a woman who had been working since 6 a.m. and did not consider this unusual. Judge Patterson signed the injunction at 7:22 this morning. I sat down. That was fast. I called in a favor. The duty judge was Patterson, and Patterson has seen 3 of these cases in the last 2 years. She slid a document across the desk. Bayou Properties Realty has been served. Phil Garrett's broker called my office at 7:50 to confirm the listing is suspended. The lockbox has been removed. My address, 1847 Prytania Street, was in bold at the top. And the movers? Action Moving and Storage on Airline Highway was notified last night by email and this morning by certified letter. Any items they removed from the property before the injunction are subject to a return order. I'll be filing that motion this afternoon. How many boxes did they take? Ray's photographs show approximately 12 boxes loaded into the truck before he started documenting. We don't know what's in them yet. 12 boxes. 31 years of a life I'd built in that house. Betty's things still in the back bedroom, my tools in the utility room. 30 years of files and photographs, and the specific accumulation of a man who owned the place long enough to forget that most of what's in it has meaning beyond what you could replace. Karen had been in my house with hired movers on the day she dropped me at Sunrise Gardens. She had either hired them the week before, or she had them on standby. Either way, the timeline was planned down to the hour. Donna, what did she think was going to happen after I'd been there a few days? Donna set down her coffee. My best guess? She believed the facility would create enough distance, enough managed routine, that you'd be harder to reach and easier to manage. She probably expected the house to sell in 2 to 3 weeks, close in 30 days, and by the time any legal challenge could be organized, the proceeds would have moved. She was counting on the environment doing some of the work for her. I thought about the beige walls, the soothing font, the carefully calibrated gentleness of a facility designed for people who needed that gentleness. Her plan had one problem. Ray Coulter, Donna said. Ray Coulter, I confirmed. If you've been listening for a while and want stories like this to keep coming, it really helps if you hit that like button and subscribe. 97% of people never do, but it's what keeps this whole thing running. So, thank you for real. Karen called 11 times between Monday evening and Wednesday morning. I know this because Donna's instruction was to let every call go to voicemail, which I did with the specific discipline of a man who has spent 68 years finishing things he started. Karen's voicemails progressed in a pattern that Donna described after listening to all 11 as a masterclass in failed justification. The first 3 were calm, explanatory. Dad, I was worried. Dad, Dr. Moran said. Dad, this is for your own good, which told me she had prepared a story and was confident in it. The 4th through 7th were defensive. Dad, the house is a lot to manage. Dad, I've been handling everything. Dad, you don't understand the financial situation, which told me the prepared story had run out of material. The 8th through 11th were something else entirely. I didn't listen to those. Donna summarized them as increasingly aware that something has gone wrong with her plan. She knows about the injunction. Phil Garrett would have called her within minutes of being served. She's known since Tuesday morning. And Glenn? Karen's husband, Glenn Pruitt, 44, who had suggested I sign the healthcare POA in 2002, and who had, I was now reconstructing, been part of this calculation longer than I had understood. Glenn hasn't called your number. He called the facility Tuesday morning asking about your status. They told him, per my instruction to them, that they couldn't share resident information. He's talked to Karen's attorney. She has an attorney already. She had one before Monday. This was planned, Jeff. I already knew that. I had known it the moment I saw my name on the welcome packet in that font. But hearing it stated plainly, by a woman who saw these cases and understood the timeline of premeditation required, it landed differently. How long, based on when Bayou Properties was engaged, which I subpoenaed this morning. The listing agreement was signed February 21st. Donna paused. 17 days before she drove you to the facility. 17 days. Karen had a signed listing agreement on my house while she was sitting at my kitchen table eating the red beans and rice I made every Sunday. She had driven me to Lowe's on the Saturday before. I'd needed weather stripping for the back door. And the whole time the listing was already filed. The lockbox was probably already ordered, and I was picking out weather stripping for a door she had already agreed to hand to a buyer. I had bought weather stripping for a door that wasn't going to be mine. I want to tell you that I handled that thought with dignity and composure. I want to tell you that 68 years of life had prepared me for the specific grief of finding out your daughter had been planning your removal for at least 17 days, while accepting your hospitality. It had not. I was quiet long enough that Donna set down her coffee and waited. She is good at waiting. It is probably the most important skill in her profession. What's the next step? I said finally. APS has opened a formal investigation. Given the documented timeline, POA misuse, unauthorized property listing, and the moving company, there's a strong basis for a referral to the Louisiana Attorney General's Office for Elder Financial Exploitation. Class H, yes. I want to be honest with you. Criminal referrals move slowly. The civil case moves faster. The injunction is in place. The property is protected. We can proceed with recovering the items from storage and formally voiding the listing agreement. And Karen? She's going to file a response. She'll claim she was acting in your best interest. She'll produce whatever documentation she and her attorney have prepared. What do we have? Your February 6th physical with Dr. Moran documenting full cognitive function. 3 years of bank records showing you managing your own finances with no irregularities. Ray's photographs from Monday morning. The listing agreement timestamp. The storage company invoice showing Monday as the move date. Donna folded her hands. We have a timeline, Jeff. Hers doesn't survive contact with ours. When does this go in front of a judge? Emergency hearing. March 21st. 11 days. Those 11 days had their own specific texture. I stayed in the hotel on St. Charles Avenue for 3 of them, not because I couldn't go home, but because I wasn't ready to go home until the moving company had returned the boxes and I could walk through the house and know what was missing. The return order was granted Wednesday, March 12th. Action Moving and Storage delivered 12 boxes to Prytania Street on Friday afternoon. March 14th, supervised by Ben from Donna's office, who had brought a camera and a clipboard and documented every box opened on the porch before it went back inside. 11 boxes were intact. The 12th was missing 4 items: a silver-framed photograph of Betty and me at our 35th anniversary dinner, a ceramic lamp from the living room that Betty had picked out in 2009, a set of first-edition books from the study that had belonged to my father, and an envelope from the top desk drawer. The envelope. What was in the envelope? Donna asked Friday afternoon. Insurance documents, the original deed to the property, and a handwritten letter I'd written to Karen in 2019 when Betty was sick, before Betty passed. I wrote it in case something happened to me before I got to say the things I wanted to say. Did Karen know that letter was in there? I'd told her years ago. I don't know if she remembered. Jeff, I need to ask you something directly. Go ahead. Is it possible Karen took that envelope because of the insurance documents and the deed, or because of the letter? I thought about it. Really thought about it. The way you think about your children when the answer is going to tell you something you're not sure you're prepared to know. Both, I said, and I'm not sure which one is worse. I did not know yet that Karen, in the 11 days between the injunction and the hearing, was going to make one more decision that would remove whatever remained of the judge's patience entirely. I did not know that Glenn, who had been quieter than Karen in all of this, which I had noted and filed without yet understanding, was going to make his own call to Donna's office that would change the shape of the March 21st hearing significantly. And I did not know that the envelope, the deed, the insurance documents, and the letter I'd written to my daughter when I thought I might not have time to say the things I needed to say, was going to be sitting on a judge's desk before the month was out. Justice has a rhythm. It doesn't move fast. Real justice, the kind that happens in courtrooms rather than comment sections, moves with the specific, unhurried pace of a system that has seen everything and is therefore not impressed by urgency. But when it arrives completely. Friday, March 21st, 11 a.m. Family Court, downtown Baton Rouge. A building that smells like recycled air and old carpet, and the accumulated weight of every difficult conversation that has ever happened in a room with fluorescent lighting. Judge Sandra Webb, not a warm woman, not a cold one, the specific temperature of a judge who has spent 22 years watching families do terrible things to each other and has developed the precise, calibrated patience of someone who knows the difference between a mistake and a plan. I wore the blue jacket Betty had bought me for our son's college graduation in 2008. I wear it for things that matter. Donna had told me to dress like a man who is at home in a courtroom, which I interpreted as a man who respects the proceeding without being intimidated by it. Karen was already seated when I arrived. She did not look at me when I walked in. Glenn was not there. I noted this. I had learned about Glenn's absence the previous afternoon, when Donna told me he had called her office Wednesday morning, 3 days after the injunction, and asked privately to speak with her. Not with Karen's attorney, with Donna. What did he say? He's not going to oppose the civil proceeding. He confirmed that the listing agreement was Karen's decision, made without consulting him beyond the initial conversation. He said he suggested the POA in 2002, in good faith, but was not involved in the decision to use it for the placement. Do you believe him? I believe his attorney told him to separate himself from Karen's position before the hearing. Whether he acted in good faith in 2022 is a different question. She paused. He gave me something, Jeff. What? The envelope. The missing items from the 12th box. He said Karen had taken it the morning of the move, and he didn't know about it until Wednesday. He brought everything to my office. The deed, the insurance documents, and the letter. I sat with that for a long moment. Glenn Pruitt, who had suggested the POA that made all of this possible, had driven to my attorney's office with the envelope I had written to my daughter in 2019 when Betty was dying, and I didn't know how much time I had left, and I needed her to know certain things in case I ran out of time to say them. He returned it. I don't know exactly what to do with that. I've thought about it every day since. The hearing lasted 47 minutes. Donna presented the February 6th physical results, the listing agreement dated February 21st, Ray's photographs from March 10th, the storage company invoice, and a timeline document that placed every event in sequence from the signed listing through the facility intake through the injunction. She presented it the way she presents everything, without drama, without editorial, just the facts in the order they occurred, which was more than sufficient because the facts in the order they occurred told a story that didn't need decoration. Karen's attorney, a man named Tom Whitfield, who had the careful, slightly tired look of someone who had been given a difficult case and had done his best with it, argued that Karen had been acting in her father's best interest, that the healthcare POA granted her authority to make placement decisions, and that the property listing was a proactive measure intended to reduce Jeffrey's financial burden. Judge Webb let him finish. Then she asked one question. Mr. Whitfield, the listing agreement on Mr. Matt's property was signed February 21st. Mr. Matt's medical evaluation documenting full cognitive function was conducted February 6th. Was Mr. Matt consulted about the listing at any point between February 6th and March 10th? Tom Whitfield's pause lasted long enough that the answer was already obvious. No, Your Honor. Was he consulted about the placement at Sunrise Gardens before March 10th? No, Your Honor. Was there a physician's order authorizing memory care placement? The facility conducted their own intake assessment. Was there a physician's order? Yes or no? No, Your Honor. Judge Webb looked at the timeline document for approximately 6 seconds. 6 very quiet seconds. Then she delivered 5 rulings in the measured, unhurried voice of a woman who had made her decision before she sat down and was now simply recording it. The healthcare POA was declared void as applied, used outside its authorized scope on a competent adult without supporting medical documentation. The property listing was permanently enjoined, and the listing agreement declared unenforceable. The Adult Protective Services referral to the Louisiana Attorney General was noted and supported by the court record. Karen Gaines Pruitt was ordered to return all items removed from 1847 Prytania Street on or before March 25th, which was largely moot since Glenn had already returned the envelope. But the order covered anything else. And finally, a no-contact protective order, effective immediately, restricting Karen from accessing the property or contacting Jeffrey without going through counsel. That last one landed in the room like a door closing. Karen's attorney put his pen down. Karen, for the first time since I'd walked in, looked at me. I did not look away. I did not look at her with anger. I looked at her the way you look at someone you have known their entire life and are only now, in this moment, fully understanding. Then I looked back at Judge Webb, because Judge Webb was still speaking and she deserved my attention. If you've made it this far, do us one quick favor. Subscribe. A lot of people watch without ever doing it, but it costs you nothing and means everything to us. Thank you. Genuinely. I want to tell you about the drive home. Donna walked me to my truck in the parking garage on Laurel Street, and we stood for a moment in that specific post-hearing quiet, where everything has been decided and there's nothing left to say that needs saying. The AG referral, I said. How serious? Serious? The timeline is documented, the amounts are significant given the property value, and the court record is clean. It moves slowly, but it moves. A pause. Jeff, are you going to be all right? I know. I'm going to be a lot of things about this for a long time. All right is probably too simple. She nodded. The letter, the one from 2019. Do you want me to file it or return it to you? I had thought about this since the moment she told me Glenn had returned it. The letter I'd written to Karen when Betty was in her last months, and I was 62, and scared in a way I hadn't been since I was a child, and I sat down at the kitchen table one evening and wrote my daughter the things I needed her to know in case I didn't get to say them. Return it to me, I said. It wasn't written for a judge. Donna reached into her briefcase and handed me the envelope. Still sealed. Glenn had not opened it. I do not know why that mattered as much as it did, but it did. I drove home to Prytania Street. Ray Coulter was on his porch when I pulled up. He stood when he saw my truck. Jeff? It's done, I said. He exhaled, the specific exhale of a man who has been holding something for 11 days. The house? Mine. The listing's gone. The no-contact order's in. Ray was quiet for a moment. Then, you hungry? Carol made a pot of gumbo. And that right there, is the thing about having a neighbor for 19 years. He knows that what you need after a day like this is not a conversation. It's food and a table and someone who has been on your side the whole time and doesn't need you to explain anything. Yeah, I said. Give me 20 minutes. I went inside alone first, walked through the house the way you walk through a house you've owned for 31 years after something has tried to take it from you. Slowly, with attention, noting what's where, what's intact, what still belongs to you. The tool room. The study. The back bedroom where Betty's things were still arranged the way I'd left them after she passed, which I had not changed and did not plan to change. The kitchen where I made red beans and rice every Sunday, and had apparently done so while my daughter held a signed listing agreement for the building we were standing in. I sat at the kitchen table with the envelope in front of me for a few minutes. Then I put it in the top desk drawer where it belonged, where it had always been, where it would stay. "Karen," I said to the empty kitchen, not with anger, not with anything dramatic, just her name, in her father's voice, in the house she'd tried to take. I went to Ray's for gumbo. Carol had made enough for 4 people, and there were only 3 of us, me, Ray, and their son Pete, who was home from Tulane for spring break and who had heard nothing about any of this, and so sat at the table talking about baseball and spring semester and a professor he couldn't stand. And it was exactly the right conversation for exactly the right reason. I didn't know yet what Karen was going to do in the weeks that followed. The AG's office moved slowly, as Donna said, and there were more hearings ahead, and more of the specific grinding work of consequence finding its correct address. I knew what I had. The house on Prytania Street. Ray 2 doors down. Carol's gumbo. The letter in the top desk drawer. And the particular, quiet satisfaction of a man who built something for 31 years, and then when someone tried to take it, made 1 phone call on a Monday morning and got it back. Some systems work the way they're supposed to. You just have to know which one to call.